Breaking news. This is all that's left of a plane that crashed with 2 people on board at a jetport in Lee County. We have a crew on the scene with a live update. And data threat returns. Months after paying a ransom, hackers are now threatening North Carolina school staff with stolen student and teacher data taken from Power School.
The quiet weather ends tomorrow. I'll show you who's under the severe threats and when the storms could arrive.
We are going to get started with this breaking news here out of Lee County. 2 people hurt when this happened. This is a plane, obviously, went down just outside of the Raleigh Executive Jetport. Sky 5 over that scene this afternoon. We want to take you there live to the ground. We have Willie Danley outside of the airport. Willie, we know that an FAA investigation is underway there tonight.
Yes, Dan, the FAA tells us that this plane was a Diamond DA-40 and that there were 2 people on board that plane the moment that it crashed. Take a look at this video. This is what Sky 5 captured as they flew above the scene. You can see one of those seats in that plane actually almost being ejected from the aircraft. Sky 5 witnessed 2 people being airlifted from this scene, one taken to Duke, the other taken to UNC. We're still working to learn more information about the extent of their injuries. As you said, the FAA is conducting their investigation. I just spoke to a flight instructor who was landing right after that plane, and he told me about the moments he saw it fly off of the runway. We're going to continue to monitor this story and keep you updated with any developments that we hear. Willie Danley, WRAL News in Sanford.
Thank you to Willie. On to another breaking story tonight, an important one for a lot of families in our area. The personal data within North Carolina public schools apparently is still in the hands of the people who should not have it. State education officials say someone sent threatening messages to school employees with data access from that Power School breach late last year. Last Friday, Power School had said that the threat was over. Turns out it is not. WRL's Carly Haynes is keeping track of all this tonight. Carly, give us an idea. What do we know about who was impacted today?
Well, the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction said that this affected 20 different North Carolina local education agencies like school districts, as well as the Department of Public Instruction itself. Unlike what happened in December, DPI believes only employees got the emails today, not students or families. And this, of course, also wasn't just limited to North Carolina. This affected school districts worldwide who also use Power School.
So obviously that initial breach was huge and the ramifications are still playing out. Is this a ramification of that, or is this a new data breach? What do they think?
A ramification of that. So NCDPI says this is not a new data breach. Those emails reference data specifically from what had been compromised back in December. And now what DPI could not confirm was whether these were the same threat actors. They said that the names were similar but different enough where they would still have to go through that verification process. Power School had actually admitted today that it had paid a ransom and had watched a video of hackers allegedly deleting that data. They said the threat was done, it was over with, but as we saw today, that is not the case, and it's still in the hands of somebody who should not be having that data.
When they reached out and they have these new demands, or what is it that they actually want, these threat actors?
Well, DPI said they demanded Bitcoin, but the superintendent of public instruction said that if anybody gets an email like that, do not buy into it.
That we have advised anyone who that received a message from the threat actor that they do not engage with that threat actor. Rather, it'd be better for them to report this incident to the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and in particular, the cybersecurity team immediately.
And the state also said that they're going to be using a new information management system starting in July.
Okay.
Dan?
Yeah, Carly, thank you so much. Obviously, this is a big story. Let us know if you find anything out new on this one, and we'll stay on it for tonight. So thank you to Carly. Let's turn things over to Kat Campbell. We're getting a look at the forecast. Chance of storms tomorrow, Kat.
Yes, and it comes later in the day than we would typically see storms on a usual spring or summer day. It's likely to come late tomorrow evening and night. This would be mainly after sunset. A level 2 threat in the western part of the state. It's a level 1 threat for much of our viewing area, especially just west of of I-95. Damaging wind gusts and hail will be the primary threats. Hour by hour, it's just a 20% chance for rain tomorrow afternoon. That chance goes up to 40% by 8 o'clock, and we've got a 60% chance 9, 10, 11, midnight tomorrow night. We'll be watching for some later night storms to roll through. The dual Doppler 5000 radar is still showing some rain in the southern part of our viewing area, but we've really seen much of the rain fizzle out over the past 2 hours. I'll have a closer look at Friday's additional severe weather threat coming up.
I will not appeal the court's decision. That's the quote of the day from Republican Jefferson Griffin. The North Carolina election that just would not end has ended. Democrat Allison Riggs kept her seat on the state Supreme Court. The GOP still has that 5-2 majority, but this case was really never about the majority, was it? It was about the effort to toss out more than 60,000 ballots, and only for that one race. That hasn't been done before. A federal judge ruled that the votes need to be counted, and as he said, Jefferson will not appeal that ruling. We're going to talk to a NC State political science professor about really what this case amounted to in the end, what it really all means. But first, WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie has some reaction from both parties tonight.
Jefferson Griffin's concession closes the book on the longest-running unresolved election in the country. Republicans and Democrats agree the challenge did damage to democracy, but each party is blaming the other for doing it. In his concession announcement, Jefferson Griffin said, "This effort has always been about upholding the rule of law and making sure that every legal vote in an election is counted." Republican House Speaker Destin Hall said Griffin's lawsuit was completely legitimate. He said the Democrats on the former State Board of Elections were to blame for not following election law.
In my opinion, if there was a gray area in the law at all, they decided it for political purposes on that basis, and to the extent we need to fix that issue, we will.
Hall said lawmakers will probably take action to ban overseas voters who've never lived in North Carolina from voting here and to require overseas military voters to show photo ID. Meantime, Democrats said Republicans on the state Supreme Court set a dangerous precedent by being willing to throw out lawfully cast ballots. Robert Reeves leads the House Democratic Caucus.
We've got to be able to have faith in our institutions. And there was no reason to separate this case out from all the other close races that we had. And so I am appreciative that it's over.
Incumbent Justice Allison Riggs said the challenge did, quote, immeasurable damage to democracy. "I'm glad the will of the voters was finally heard 6 months and 2 days after Election Day," Riggs said. "It's been my honor to lead this fight, even though it should never have happened." Outgoing state elections director Karen Brinson Bell also alluded to the case without naming names.
"I hope we return to a time when those who lose elections concede defeat rather than trying to tear down the entire election system and erode voter confidence."
Laura Leslie, WRAL News, Raleigh.
Joining me now is Stephen Green. He's a political science professor at NC State University. Stephen, thanks for being here. Let's jump right into it here. I want to start actually with a quote from the federal judge's decision in this case. This is Judge Richard Myers. He writes, "This case concerns whether the federal Constitution permits a state to alter the rules of an election after the fact and apply those changes retroactively to only a select group of voters. Griffin can't change the rules of the game after it had been played." Now, this is something that has seemed kind of obvious to a lot of average observers from the very beginning of all of this. But of course, this case lasted for months. I'm wondering why you think it went back and forth in the courts for so long to just be resolved in the end by one of the earliest arguments against it.
Good question, because again, that is such a clear, straightforward, compelling explanation. You don't have to have gone to law school or be any kind of expert in election law to understand that. Courts in North Carolina, rather than the federal courts, made decisions that allowed this to continue, despite, again, what seems like a very straightforwardly obvious interpretation of election law.
Now, for months, we have talked about how if this is a ruling that goes in Griffin's favor, it would be this unprecedented thing that could ripple through every election in the country. But now we know that it has ended in Riggs's favor. So I'm wondering what you think the legacy of this case will be. What will come from this?
that very much remains to be seen. The fact that it went this far, trying to change the rules of an election after an election, and that we are many months later, that Griffin did have some court challenges that found, at least to a degree, in his favor, might in fact encourage future candidates to undertake similar lawsuits after election losses in which they try and change the rules of whose votes can be counted after the election. And it very much remains to be seen whether we see future lawsuits in that direction.
So Griffin conceded on the same day, we should mention, that the director of the State Board of Elections was removed from her job. The Republican Party just took control over that board through the state auditor's office. Could this newly Republican-controlled board of Elections change the rules that were at the issue of this Griffin case, the clerical errors that they saw, the overseas ballots that were being cast without ID? Or is that something that only the legislature can do?
No, they can to a degree, and I expect them to. And you know what? As long as the new rules are clearly in place before the next election and they're consistent with the North Carolina and U.S. Constitution, that's fine. And then we will contest the next election under those rules. What was so problematic about this case is that we had Judge Griffin looking to have these rules changed after the election. And again, only in very certain counties where he felt that it would electorally favor him.
Now, last one for you here. We receive a lot of emails from our viewers here at 7 o'clock, and we've heard a lot about this case. And one question that we got a lot of, in fact, there was a viewer named Jim who just wrote in this afternoon, and he asked, how much money has been spent challenging the outcome of this election, and what were the sources of that money? I guess basically he's asking, what did this cost us as taxpayers, if anything?
I'm not quite sure how much of this was taxpayers. A lot of it was funded by challenges from the Republican Party and their donors. But, to be fair, again, I don't think this was a good challenge. I think this federal ruling made that very clear. But we don't want to say that we can't spend money on court cases where we have to, decide on important issues that affect our political system.
All right, and it's a nice point. Professor Green, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Now, as always, if you want to learn more about this case, we have tons of coverage online. Most of you are at home going, you know what, actually, I think I'm done with this. Let's just move on. But if you still want some more, go to the NC Capital section of WRAL.com or our free WRAL app. Buying tickets online can be very convenient. But as you probably know, it can be a bit of a headache sometimes, too. State lawmakers had an idea to potentially make things more secure, but venues across the state didn't quite like it. We're going to take a trip to Murph's Turf to explain why. This week, we talked about a bill that would prohibit ticket companies like Ticketmaster from limiting where you can resell those tickets. Well, today, that bill basically died. It's not becoming law anytime soon. What's interesting, though, is that the Carolina Panthers and some smaller arts groups joined forces to make that happen, asking the lawmakers to dump this bill. And we wanted to know why. And to get some of those answers, we spoke to WRAL investigative sports reporter Brian Murphy over at Murph's Turf. Murph, how are you, bud?
Hey, Dan, how are you?
Good. So we mentioned that this bill has died, but as somebody who covers the legislature often, does a bill ever really die entirely?
Not really. Not in this state legislature. It can always be attached to another bill. It can be thrown into the budget. There are many ways for a bill to come back to life.
So let's first start with what this bill was meant to do in its kind of best form.
Yeah, I mean, I think the supporters of this bill, the proponents, the people who brought it, wanted to break Ticketmaster's monopoly in some ways. They basically said, and their argument was pretty simple, if you buy a ticket, it's your ticket. You can sell that ticket anywhere you want for any price you want, for $9 or $900. It's your ticket, and wherever you sell it and wherever I buy it, I shouldn't be denied entry to that concert, that sporting event, you name it, that comedian, just because I bought it off a secondary market like a SeatGeek or a StubHub.
As a consumer, that makes sense. But again, it died. Give us an idea of why.
Well, the Carolina Panthers, for one, argued against this bill. They do have a deal with Ticketmaster, as does the Carolina Hurricanes, as do the Charlotte Hornets. So Ticketmaster has their hands in a lot of business when it comes to the ticket market and the ticket marketplace. But there were other small groups like Arts North Carolina, which represents nonprofits and arts organizations and small venues, who said, we actually need some of the protections that this bill would wipe away when it comes to ticket resales. We don't want lots of bots coming in or big ticket brokers coming in and buying all the tickets and then selling them wherever they want. And obviously there are some powerful forces aligned with the Ticketmaster side of this, and that's why they got the bill killed.
So are there more protections then? So if you have to buy from Ticketmaster, and then if you want to resell, you have to resell again through Ticketmaster, it's just more of another layer to help keep bots out.
This is not in place right now. If you buy a ticket, you can go to StubHub, you can go to SeatGeek, you can sell it to your neighbor. There are no restrictions on what you can do with that ticket. This is a preemptive bill. There is concern that eventually, because of Ticketmaster's dominance in the market, they may institute that you can only sell that ticket back to Ticketmaster. You can't get into this event if you bought that ticket through SeatGeek or StubHub.
I'm wondering how the average person who wants to go to a concert or a sporting event is really impacted by this sort of thing.
I mean, we've seen a lot of work done in this area, right? All-in pricing, so that when you purchase a ticket for $150, at the end it's not $275, right? They're trying to be more upfront with their pricing, and that's been a government thing. But also, anytime you buy a ticket, whether it's for an airline or a sporting event, a concert, you're always worried. Should I have bought this ticket a month ago? Should I have bought it a month later? If I buy this ticket, is it fraudulent, or am I going to actually get into the event that I want to get into? I think there's a lot of consumer concern, consumer worry when it comes to purchasing tickets online. Like, how much does this thing really cost? What is its real value? And why am I paying so much more?
So even if this bill itself is dead, if that concern is still there, and we know that it is with a lot of people, this will probably be revisited in one way, shape, or form moving forward.
Yeah, bills at the legislature usually get introduced long before they become law because they want to get that conversation started. And I think this is definitely something that will move the conversation.
All right. Thanks, Murph.
Thank you.
From Murph's turf to the grass at Pinehurst. So you can get some golf in right now, but you get a little bit of rain on our way.
A little bit of rain. And, you know, I've got to ask, we've been talking about this. Is this a train?
It looks like a train.
Does anybody know? I mean, it looks like a yellow train back there, but I mean, maybe it could be construction equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know if you know exactly what this is. I'm very curious. You know, earlier they had some rain around here. Not too bad right now. A lot of the rain that we had moved in earlier was just light. It's not like it was downpours and thunder and lightning, but maybe not the best weather to golf in. That's moving to the east a bit closer to the Fayetteville area, and it stayed to the south of Raleigh today. Still a couple of sprinkles out there, but nothing significant, even a shower in Johnston County. That could change tomorrow, though. Tomorrow night especially, level 2 threat to our west in yellow. We are under a level 1 threat from I-95 points west tomorrow. This would come later in the evening, likely after sunset with a severe weather threat. And then all of our viewing area is under the level 1 threat for severe storms on Friday. It looks like it would be more afternoon and evening time. However, there could be some rain around early in the day, so we'll have to see how that affects energy levels. Let's start with tomorrow, 5 o'clock. As of right now, it still looks quiet during the evening commute. Meteorologist Mike Mays will let you know if that changes with our new model runs in tonight. The better chance for storms would come 7, 8 o'clock in the northwestern part of our viewing area and probably closer to 8 to 10 p.m. around Wake County and Raleigh. As we see these storms continue to push east, they should die down a bit in terms of intensity late tomorrow night, but we could see some of this rain move in overnight into early Friday, so we'll keep an eye on that for you. This is just the start of the unsettled weather pattern. Low pressure is going to move through the area again, and we'll have the chance for some scattered activity on Friday with this cold front still hanging out nearby on Friday. Friday's storm chances about 50%. Saturday looks like the drier of the weekend days, mostly cloudy and cooler, 73. Sunday, we did add a 20% chance for rain. We've been telling you about this for the past 2 days now, that Sunday doesn't look bad, but we've got a system close by that we'll have to watch. We're going mostly cloudy, 76. Rain chances still low, at least in the triangle. Saturday, that rain stays just south of us. But Sunday, the trend that we've seen today on the European model and one of our new AI models that we have access to is actually lifting this front a little bit farther to the north, and that would bring some rain towards Charlotte, Fayetteville, Wilmington, and the southern beaches. Maybe a little drier still, though, from the triangle points north. Stay tuned for updates. It's going to be a fine line there to figure out exactly where that front stalls out. Over the next couple of days, we'll still be warm with highs in the 80s, a dip in temperatures for the weekend. As of right now, the wettest days on the 7-day forecast should come Monday and Tuesday. We went ahead and bumped up rain and storm chances to 60 to 70% those days. Dan.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Kat. Your one last thing is next, right after the break. Our one last thing tonight is an update on that small plane crash at the Raleigh Executive Jetport. Let's go to the Live Center for the latest. Brian?
Just got this in from State Highway Patrol in the past 10 minutes, Dan. A lot of details about what happened this afternoon. Around 4 o'clock, that plane was conducting touch-and-go takeoffs and landings there at Raleigh Executive Jetport when the plane veered to the left into a field at the end of the runway and crashed. Highway Patrol confirms 2 people were on board that plane at the time of the crash. The owner, Terry Gallagher, and a mechanic identified as Scott Riley. We told you about the medical helicopters that we saw there at the scene. We have learned that Gallagher was flown to UNC in Chapel Hill in critical condition, and Riley was flown to Duke with what are being described as serious injuries. The FAA and NTSB are now investigating.
Okay, thank you to Brian. Hopefully both of those men can recover. We'll continue to stay on top of this story for you throughout the evening. We appreciate you being with us here on WRAL News at 7 o'clock. Our next newscast is at 10 o'clock on Fox 50. We'll see you back here on WRAL tonight at 11. Until then, have a great evening.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.